All right, this is Lone Star Drift Week. We are in day 6, I think. We're currently in Tucson, Arizona. It's our second day in this area. We are doing a track known as Honda Muscleman Circuit. Tomorrow morning, I'm super excited. The trip's been amazing so far. This is Dustin Miles. Dustin, tell us where you're from, pimp your sponsor.
I am from Atlanta, Georgia, and definitely big shout out to FitFo for helping me make it out to this trip. So without them, I would not have been able to make it. They supplied me with some amazing help and some financial backing to make this thing happen for me, and I'm forever grateful.
We finished 3 track days. We're about to do 4 more. That's correct, right?
Yep.
Yeah. We've already been out here though for 6 days traveling and doing everything. We're making our way across the country. You are driving in a dog box S13 with a JZ, with a standalone ECU, with coilovers. Like, it's a full car. How bad is the dog box and stuff?
In like around town, it's really bad. Like first, second, third are like whiny gears, but fourth gear has like a quiet cruising area for it. So it hasn't been so bad.
So do you have to cruise at like a certain RPM to make it all go away?
Definitely. I found that out the hard way. Yeah, Texas to Albuquerque. Yeah, because I cruised at one point at like 3,800 4 grand trying to do like 75, 80, and my car got like maybe 8 miles to the gallon.
So what's the worst part about driving this thing on the street? And remember, this isn't your garden variety 240 SX like that does events. This is a pretty full-on car. So what's the worst part?
I never designed it to go on a long cruise, so the seat is not ideal. Like I bought this car with the cage in it, and I had to work with what I had basically because I'm no fabricator. And it's okay for at a track day, and I never really actually ever sat in a fixed back seat for a long amount of time.
But now you have.
And now I have 10 hours one day, right?
Yeah.
And it was a bit uncomfortable. Yeah, I mean, I guess it's just basically the having to keep my leg and foot at one position to try and keep the RPMs right where I want them has been the most uncomfortable part. Like every time we stop, I have like the wickedest cramp in my...
Do you wish you brought a different car, or are you happy with the car?
I'm very happy with the car. I don't think there was another car that I would have rather brought.
Not the Corvette?
I mean, the Corvette definitely would have been nice for the cruising and just the comfortability and all that stuff, but I wouldn't trade it.
The car is very like him. The car, all the stickers are something you put on. The whole car is something that you did. The color, there's nothing really stock about this car.
Nothing.
It's kind of an expression of yourself and stuff.
Exactly.
So it's kind of cool to have something like David Mesker's car is just a 350Z. Like, it's nothing special. It drives great on the street, and it's a really good choice for something like this. But it's not such an expression of himself.
Yeah.
Just coilovers and wheels and like some simple stuff. But it's more comfortable. But he still has some discomfort problems too from a cage, actually. The cage in his car makes the car uncomfortable because the main halo is so far forward.
Same problem.
We don't really think about that so much when you're building a cage, that you could have very easily, or whoever made this cage, made it more comfortable for the driver. And without sacrificing any safety. It'd probably actually be safer because everything would be farther away from you. Knowing what you know now, is each day of driving in the car worth driving a track like that?
For sure.
You know what I mean?
For sure. This whole trip has opened my eyes to street driving my drift car to events now. Like I've never actually even had a street drift car. Like as soon as I got into drifting, I was one of those guys that were like, boom, 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 power, angle, blah, blah, blah. I want to go to the track. I got my truck. I got my trailer. I'm on to break stuff, And I've never actually got to enjoy the street car part of it until this trip, and that's been a very eye-opening experience.
It's weird because you've probably never really played around. I mean, you probably have, but having all your friends around in their own drift cars and playing around in the street, that's not something I do anymore. I used to do that 15 years ago when I first got into drifting, but and I do it a tiny bit sometimes in the Corvette or something, but rarely do we actually go play around and do donuts and manji down the highway and do silly stuff. We're about to get the drift cars out and do some street drifting as soon as this interview's over. But it's kind of cool because my cars stay in the trailer or in the shop, and I'm sure yours probably do too.
Same.
It's interesting. You're like, oh, this is a new part of drifting I like. And it sounds dumb because it's how most of us got into drifting or how a lot of people have experienced it. But once you start getting to the higher end, the higher levels of drifting, you lose other levels. Once you get a truck and trailer, the truck and trailer is for the drift car. So why do you need to drive the drift car in the street?
Exactly.
You don't really do that.
And I never even had the want to make it a street car, really. This car, I never even had a title for this car. I still don't technically have a title, but in Georgia we can title bond and get our license plates and stuff like that. And honestly, I was super scared because the car was registered in another state previously and hadn't been registered since 2004. So I didn't really know what the
Legality
status of
it all
the
and
title
stuff, yeah.
would be. But I got it in the one day. Like, it was like the last couple days before the trip.
Yeah.
Like, the trip itself has actually been surprisingly relaxing for me because the weeks leading up to the trip were so crazy.
Yeah, and you're out here now. There's not like you can do anything now.
Yeah.
You're just driving the car until it breaks, and then, I mean, like, there's not much preventative maintenance we can do on the trip.
Yeah.
Like, you can check your oil and, like, check bolts, but you're not going to, like, I don't know what else to do to a drift car.
I don't either.
You just put tires on it and drive it.
Exactly. The hardest part of this whole thing was getting ready for this thing.
Yeah.
It was
I agree with that.
a complete nerve-wrecking situation. Like, up until maybe 3 or 4 days before the trip, I had no idea if I was even going to be able to make it, kind of thing.
Wow.
Like, it was January 5th or 6th of this, like, and we were in Austin on the 21st, Austin on the 21st or 20th, and I had to drive from Atlanta, which was a 12, 14-hour drive to Austin. On January 5th, this car was a complete shell. Didn't have anything in it. No engine,
man.
no motor, no wires.
You've been doing Pro 2, though, right?
Yep.
Formula D stuff?
Yep.
Have you experienced the same kind of stuff in Formula D, obviously, the thrashing at the last minute, or is your Formula D program pretty dialed?
No, I'm pretty certain that the whole thrashing last minute is something that happens at every level of drifting. No matter what event it is, especially, unless it's like, we're having a Sunday drift at a local track. Those are the only events you're ever really ready for. If you have like a big, like, I'm going to, drive a Pro-Am series, or I'm going to like any other big event, there's always that, no matter how much you try to be prepared, stuff always happens to make it very last minute, no matter what, I feel like. I don't know if you've experienced that. In my experience, it's definitely been
obviously everything always breaks, and I always don't feel, like, I host a lot of events, so I get to the point where, like, if the car breaks, it's not a big deal. I don't get to drive. Mm-hmm. I obviously want to drive. I'm horrifically addicted to driving. I think we all are with drifting. Mm-hmm. You know that feeling.
Oh,
if your friends are out on track, you're like, oh, what can I do to get on track? What can I do? What can I do? Like, bugging friends to help you, borrowing parts, doing whatever you can. But it's much more relaxed when I'm doing a normal event because it's replaceable. I probably host maybe 12 to 13 events per year. And if I miss one, it's only 8% of the drifting per year. It's not a big deal. But if I completely break on drift week, I'm out. We might not ever do drift week again. Like, this, depending on how this goes, like, this could get really miserable. Yeah. I mean, like, we're still less than 50% of the way half through. Mm-hmm. And I feel like it's been we've had 2 cars had the engines out of the car today. Well, one had a head off, but one has a complete engine swap going on. Oh, actually, I guess, so Luke Fink blew a motor, Dan Brockett blew a motor, but they didn't fix one got fixed before he showed up. Axel Francois blew a motor. He's actually replacing the motor right now, and Trevor just pulled the head off because they had a spark plug embed itself in a valve. But, that's 4 major failures and a lot of work. I felt very stressed before the event because I wanted the car to be as good as possible and reliable as possible, and we ran out of time, so we didn't get to test the car. So I brought an untested car. We were pretty sure it was going to be pretty reliable, but we didn't know if it'd even drift.
Yeah.
You're like, what am I doing? I had a lot of time to plan this. Like, I literally set the dates for this thing.
Yeah.
Like, what am I doing? You're the guy that does drifting and goes, ooh, I can do Pro-Am. Ooh, I can do Pro. Ooh, I can do a Formula D. I can do this. This is kind of a sidestep. Mm-hmm. Why'd you do this? You know what I mean? Because it definitely doesn't go straight to your Formula D career being in Pro 1 and winning, which looks like what you're doing with your S13. Mm-hmm. Your other S13 is very aggressive. It has a quick change. It has a sequential. It has a JZ. It's a monster of a car.
It is.
This is sidestepping. Like, you could have done this with a 350Z and probably had equal amount of fun. Do you agree?
I agree, but I mean, honestly, I think
I'm not saying you shouldn't do that car. I was just saying, why are you doing all that?
The driver talent that's on this trip, the amount of tracks that we're driving back to back to back, I think are all beneficial to my Formula D goals and aspirations because I'm getting to drive with some of the best drivers in the world on this trip. I mean, that practice right there is worth its weight in gold, You're getting more practice with Formula D drivers here than you would in an entire season of Formula D. Exactly.
And you're practicing with Pro 1 guys, not
probably
Pro 2
in one
guys.
day on this trip, to be honest.
Actually, no, you're absolutely correct.
Yeah, I'm 100% right, for sure. Yeah, like, one day on this trip.
Can you say that again clearly in your own words?
I'm definitely getting more practice time with other amazing drivers, Formula D level and not Formula D drivers that are still equally as good on this trip than I would in a full season of Pro 2.
That's interesting because it kind of gives you another perspective of how to practice, if you know what I mean.
It does.
Because you can't exactly go to these guys' home tracks and drive with them. You don't know if they're going to show up. You don't know if they're going to come with a good car. You don't know if they're going to be aggressive. And another thing, you might be there with 100 people and you don't get to drive with them.
Yep.
And even at the Formula D events, you're not driving with these guys anyways.
No.
You're driving with the Pro 2 guys.
Yep.
Which you don't want to, it's not that you don't want to associate yourself with them, but I would assume you want to level up past them and drive with the good guys, not get stuck in Pro 2.
I mean,
not to insult Pro 2, but.
Yeah, not to insult them and not to insult any driver, but I mean, I get just, I mean, as long as they're a good driver, I mean, I feel like there's a benefit for driving with them in any sense, really. You know,
Yeah.
like, it was the first time I got to drive with you a few days ago, and you really surprised me, like, how good you are, too. Like, I'm not trying to downplay you or say that you're not a bad driver, you're a bad driver or anything. I've not really ever seen you drive because I'm in Atlanta and stuff, but I was like, damn, this dude is aggressive. Like, those entries at Sandia when we were coming around the bank, and, like, I couldn't even keep up with you. I was like, what the hell, where's he? Trying to catch up, and, man, it was fun.
It's a lot of fun to drive with people, especially when they feel comfortable and they're like kind of jamming, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
And like, did you get into the zone out there? Like,
yeah,
because I felt like a lot of us were in the zone at Sandia because it's a bit tighter than Harris Hill.
Yeah.
Which, you know, the tighter the track, the closer we are all and everything.
Yeah, the more fun the tandems are usually. Safe, at least.
Did you drive at Indy on North Course at all?
I didn't get to drive at Indy on the big course at all.
It was so good.
I know. It was.
Your car was. I didn't really get to drive it either, and I was like stressed out. Like, you know, like, Mark, what can we do? Mark, what can we do? What can we do to keep this car cool? But it wasn't really in the cards.
Yeah, I kind of had a choice where I could have drove North Course in Indy and potentially cut off the rest of my trip. And so I was kind of like, well, as much as I was looking forward to drifting on my birthday, I'm just gonna be able to have to stick with this little bit of drifting I did in the morning because I broke my diff. And then after breaking my diff, we inspected the drive shaft, and it had a small hairline crack around the weld. And so I kind of called it that day where I was like, well, if I break my drive shaft, it's going to be a whole lot harder to get that repaired.
What's the best part of the Drift Week stuff? You talked about some of it. Is there a specific thing that kind of sticks out in your mind?
I mean,
For me, it's just hanging out with everybody, to be honest.
I think it's hanging out with everybody and the group of people that we're with, and it's also just being able to, like you said originally when you told me about this stuff, it's just checking off bucket list tracks, just one after the other, you know, like I've never, like I know you said in Japan you guys can just drift, you know, one day after the next and decks and a whole 2 weeks of drifting like every day, and I've never got to experience anything like that. When I drift, it's one weekend, and then I mean I have the last few years in certain months drifted every single weekend of the month, but you know, it gets so costly. And honestly, this trip has opened my eyes to the amount of money savings that can be had by just street driving your car to the event. Like for me to do this trip with my truck and trailer would have costed me 10 times as much as what it is.
To be fair though, we do have a truck and trailer, and I am carrying all your stuff. You wouldn't be able to street drive this with all your tires and stuff. Like, it has to be on a specific type of, you know, like, you can't just street drive everywhere. Yeah. It'd be nice if we could.
Yeah. But I mean, I guess if I can figure out a trailer situation for this thing, then it could potentially happen. But
that's kind of funky.
Funky.
I actually do not want to trailer anything with my drift car.
Yeah, no,
that looks like a good way to die.
I didn't either. Yeah. I mean, obviously we saw what happened to Dan.
Yeah, so. It looks like a good way to like completely lose control of a car and like get totaled. Yeah. But some of these guys are doing it, and if I'm gonna have a trailer, I might as well put the car in the trailer.
Exactly. And
but it's cool because, like you said, you're learning. I'm learning. Like, I've only street driven my car a few times at drift events, and it was a full comp car, like no windows or Lexan windows at the time. It was my S13, you know, the one that I've had forever, and it was a lot of fun. But someone was pulling a trailer, you know, and I didn't have to take anything with me, so I was drifting on ramps and stuff and off ramps and highways. It was so much fun. But you can't do that with a trailer.
No.
You can't do all the burnouts, you can't do all the fun stuff.
And honestly, these guys that pulled a trailer with their drift car, they had a whole bunch more confidence in their car than I did. Because I was like, well, shoot, if I pull a trailer and my car breaks down, I'm going to have to get a tow for my car and a tow for the trailer. So I was just like, that's just another...
Oh, man, you just leave that trailer behind. It's dead to me if that happens.
Much, basically.
My whole car's dead to me if it breaks badly enough. I've had off-road vehicles before, my Land Cruisers, and I would take the title in the glove box, because if it got bad enough, I'd just be like, hey guys, this is where the thing is. Anybody can have it. Go get it. Like, rescue it. I just don't want to deal with it. I have that mentality, though. I try and have not too much money in cars.
Yeah,
obviously, this
one, I couldn't
has
really
a lot
do
of money.
that.
No, too much money.
Yeah, too much money.
But that also means you can't be as aggressive on track sometimes. Because it's the same thing, like, in my mind, if I'm on track with a car, it is 100% written off.
You know,
I can, you know, like, I cannot have any love for that car that I need to keep that car another day.
Yeah, and I've been having that same problem on track. I would say this whole trip I've kind of been a little bit too reserved, and what happens is I'll come off track and I'll be upset with myself because I was so reserved.
Yeah.
So every time that happens, I push a little bit harder. As you can see, the thing is not all that high off the ground, so I know if I...
No, but you're killing it. That's still together. And this is a fiberglass spitter or something.
Yeah, it's fiberglass. Yeah.
So this is not going to protect anything. It's for looks.
Yeah.
Show me, Luke. Show me how strong you are. Show me how strong you are. Drop it.
It protects the bottom of the bumper from scrapes. Like on the side skirts, the side skirts actually stay in pretty good shape because the splitter takes all the fun stuff. But yeah, no one thought I was gonna make it with these things.
I didn't think all that stuff was gonna last.
I gotta put a rivet in on one side over there, but
no one's actually lost a body kit yet.
I know.
Adam has lost his rear bumper, but it's still on the car.
Yeah.
We've lost more engines than body kits, which is wild. I can't believe the fiberglass is lasting. But we're not done yet. And on the last day of the journey, we're gonna have a concourse event that shows we're gonna do like a little judge thing to see like how many cracks you have in your paint and all this stuff and judge them. We'll see how it looks.
Yeah, we will. Especially, is it gonna be before Grange or after the Grange?
It's gonna be after Hoonigan.
Oh yeah, well, I might not have too many body panels
might
left
not have
after
a car
Grange.
After. Why'd you start drifting?
I went to a Formula D event at Road Atlanta in 2013 and immediately fell in love and was like, I want to do this. Then I met some friends there that day. They were like, oh, we have a grassroots event 2 weeks from now. You should come. Went out there, left that event, immediately got home and got on Craigslist and found a car. And it's actually still my Formula D car. The first car I ever bought is my Formula D car.
So how long did it take you to get to Pro 1 then? 6 years?
Pro 2.
I'm sorry, Pro 2. 6 years or something? 7 years?
No, I got my license the first year I did Pro-Am.
What?
So,
oh, wait. But what year was that?
That was in 2017.
Okay.
4 years.
So 4 years to get there, and then so in your 5th year you were in Pro 2. Does that sound right? Because you got to wait for the calendar year to shift.
Yep.
Okay. So 5 years and then you started.
Yep.
And then you've been driving Pro 2 for how many years?
I just finished my second season.
How'd that go?
I'm still learning as I go. The jump from Pro-Am level to Pro 2 level is pretty big, and it's just like you go out there to most Pro-Am series and there's, a handful of guys that really got it dialed in, and at Pro level it's kind of like almost every guy's dialed in. So it's just like, you're a lot smaller fish in a bigger pond.
What specifically do you learn?
Car setup really is the biggest jump level. It's like you go from driving a car where a 450 horsepower car is very competitive at the Pro-Am level, or it was when I did it. It's been growing very rapidly since then. And then in Pro 2 level, it's like 650 and above really is what kind of you need to have for power wise. But you also got to have all your grip dialed in and stuff too. So it's a big.
So in setup specifically, you're just naming horsepower. Like, how do you set your car up at an event? Are you changing toe? Are you changing?
Honestly, at most Pro 2 events, we don't have enough practice time to really make those kind of adjustments. It's kind of like set the gearing and go for it. And you're going to get 3 to 5 laps before qualifying. So it's more so learn whatever the car is in the track right then and just adjust. And then if you get to top 16 practice, it's more so like set your car up loose when you get there. After you qualify, dial in the grip. Because in
when
top
you say
16,
loose, how do you set it up loose first?
A loose setup would be a little bit less toe in the rear, and that'd be pretty much about it. And adjusting tire pressures, like go from 30 psi down to 25 if you're on Achilles, or if you're on Nexans, it would be going from 25 psi down to 12, or something like that.
Okay, keep going. You were saying when you get to top 16.
So when you get to top 16, you actually get a lot of laps because you got to think you got the same amount of practice time, but with a quarter of the drivers almost. The field comes down from 40 drivers to 16, so you're only rotating every 8 laps, and you're getting a lot of laps in.
How many laps do you typically get at an event like that?
Before qualifying or total?
No, just the events you go to with the normal placing that you get and stuff. How many laps do you typically get per event, just like averaged out over a season?
4 laps before qualifying. Top 16 practice, you'll probably get 10 laps, and then competition, if you take it all the way, you're getting 6 laps.
Right, but how many for you do you normally get?
I will normally get about 8 to 12 laps.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you get about 8 to 12 laps. So an entire season of FD Pro 2, you're going to get about
50 laps.
36
maybe.
laps or something that to like 56 to 60 laps.
Yeah.
Okay, so probably average out for you personally somewhere around like 40 to 50 laps.
40 to 50 laps.
Okay.
Total.
And do you supplement that time driving well enough outside of the events with your gripped up car and stuff to make those changes that you need to make and to thoughtfully go through the process of like, this is how I drive this car, this is how I set the car up, this is how my team operates around the car, you know, like this is how I financially figure out how to run this car. Is it a smooth process for all that? Do you have it all dialed out by doing plenty of driving? Or is it kind of a little bit of a shit show where, you know what I mean, 50 laps in a season is not enough for me to even get used to a car?
Yeah. No, I definitely supplement myself by driving a lot of other events. Like last year, I burned through about 150 tires.
Okay. So you are getting to drive quite a bit.
Oh, I'm getting to drive quite a bit. But at the same time, most of my cars don't really aren't that gentle on tires. I'm still trying
150 tires in your other pro car could only be 150 laps.
300 laps probably.
Okay, so you're getting 4 laps for a set of tires then?
No, 2 laps.
Okay, then you're having 2 tires out of 150, so 150 laps.
Yep, 150 laps.
Boom! Drift math.
What am I doing with my life?
You're like, my math is way off.
I was like, I was doing a whole lot better on my math. I don't like your math.
Yeah. You're like, that just doubled the cost to run my program.
Yeah, it did.
You're like, I gotta go do math.
And so one of the
Bank account
things that
math.
I'm doing to kind of help supplement that is now this car, which previously it didn't really have the same setup as the other car, but now I put the same angle kit on both cars, so it'll physically feel in the wheel similar. Whereas before it was like I would drive this car and it would have a whole nother angle kit, and then I'd drive the other pro car.
What's the angle kit?
The GK Tech V4 setup. So that's gonna be I think a benefit for this year. And honestly, it was just learning the whole setup of the car for a pro level kind of car, which is what all you need. Like my cars have always been 1Js, and so lower displacement, I have a little bit of a hinder on the run up. So if I don't launch my car 100% correct, I can get gapped really easy. And once you lose the distance in the beginning, you never really can make it up, especially if you're trying to stay on the right line.
Why don't you go to 2J then? Or V8 or anything else? Why do you stick with 1J, which is probably the smallest displacement other than RB20 inline 6 you could do?
They've been really good to me. I mean, the reliability, I can't beat it. The sound, I can't beat it. And
But those things that translate over to a 2J.
The sound's different. The reliability's there. Cost. I've already bought the manifolds for a 1J. I've already got all these other pieces that bolt onto the 1J. So if I was to switch to a 2J...
How about a 3-liter block with a 1J head?
I've been thinking about that too, and I might do that for this year, but I also already have bought in multiple, like I have total 4 1Js, 2 VVTI blocks that are built, and then 2 non-VVTI blocks that are built.
Okay.
So it's kind of like, oh, I gotta...
You're in those 1Js.
I'm in
That's
those
the
1Js.
answer.
But I have found the equalizer, which is nitrous.
Yeah.
So as long with a progressive shot of nitrous down low, out of boost, 2,500 to $5,000. I mean, the thing's a rocket ship.
Yeah.
But I didn't find that out until the very last round last year of Formula D. And then I didn't get a chance to test that. And we were at Texas Motor Speedway, and I'm sure you know how intimidating it can be running that course coming back into the tire wall.
Yeah.
And I had set up my alignment completely different. I didn't get that many laps, but I drove the next day with you guys, and the car felt a lot better, and I was able to get more comfortable, and I've kind of have the car set up now. I'm going to do a lot of driving when I get home. Well, not so much a lot. This is kind of like my allotment of pre-season FD driving, which is this trip. And I'm going to do maybe a couple track days in my FD car when I get back and try and just get it ready. But I'm not making that many adjustments to it, so it should feel good for me, in theory.
Do you have any unique ideas, like the Drift Week idea or something else that would be good for drifting and would, you know, do something interesting to drifting? Do you have any like ideas that you think are neat and you want to do, or I should steal in this interview and then execute on and not tell you about or pay you royalties?
I'm not all that creative, so
No?
no, I haven't really put my mind to use into that so much realm. When I heard about the Drift Week thing, I guess it's always been something that growing up hearing about Drag Week, we've all kind of like had the, oh, that would be really cool to do, but no one's ever taken the incentive to make it happen until now, and I was very thankful that I got to be a part of it and enjoy this crazy experience.
You know what's really dumb? is we had this idea and we all sat around and thought about it and everything, and then people are like, oh, that's like drift week or drag week, and you're like, what? They're like, yeah, drag week. I'm like, I don't know what that is. They're like, how do you not know what drag week is? And I'm like, I don't know anything about drag racing. I've only been to a drag strip and actually gone down the strip like once.
I've never even been down the drag strip.
Yeah, I was like, I don't know anything about it. And they're like, oh, go watch it. And then I watched it and I was like, this is really boring. Mm-hmm. They like go to a track and do one lap and then go to the next track, I think. I think that's all it is.
They only do a 900 miles total.
Yeah.
So we are absolutely crushing them
us
in every aspect of that because we're drifting all day, every day, and this whole trip has been like 3,000 miles.
Yeah. Oh, look, Luke and Adam and everybody just rolled in. They're probably vlogging for real and doing real money. Adam's been installing a Lexian window all day for his video.
He's probably making more money than us throughout this whole trip.
No, he obviously is.
Just from that video.
Yes, obviously he is. This isn't like a question or anything. This is like obvious. He's
pretty much
killing
the
it.
only one that makes money drifting.
There's other people, yeah. Everybody has to find their little niche in drifting and milk it. I'm still looking for mine.
Yeah, I'm trying to find mine too. I got my big magnifying glass, and I don't see nothing in the future.
No, you have a good job on the outside, and you monetize it that way.
Yep.
This is a hobby for almost everybody. Racing in general is a hobby.
Yep.
Racing does not need to make everybody money.
Nope.
People should go be doctors and lawyers and welders and fabricators and bankers. I don't know. Do something useful. Because there's not enough spots in drifting for everybody to get paid. We're the clowns in the circus that pay to be in the circus.
Yep.
I know that.
But like anything, it's an addiction, and I'm addicted to it. I love it.
What would you ask me?
What would I ask you?
Or I can do rapid fire right now.
Let's go rapid fire.
All right, you got 2 seconds to answer a question. Don't think about it too long. Spit them out. If you're wrong, you can go and correct yourself. Okay. So right now, question number 1. How many tires have you been through in drifting? Total.
400.
All right. What's the best drift car you've ever owned?
This one.
How many cars have you owned? Wait, this is better than your Formula D car?
This one has been, a lot more successful for me. I've won competitions in this one and stuff like that.
How many cars have you owned total?
Total, like outside of drifting?
All cars.
10.
Okay.
Not that many.
What is the best drift car? The best type of chassis for drifting? Just spit it out.
Corvette.
Woo! What kind of car do you want? What kind of car do you want next as a drift car? If you lost this car or somebody bought it and gave you money and it was gone, what would you build as a drift car? Don't get stuck into the idea of that I have 4 1JZs that fit with these engine mounts and all this shit and I have to stay with one car. What would you start over with?
E46.
Really? Why an E46?
They're just very competitive chassis from the factory. They're race cars straight off the bat.
But you say that, but James Dean and all these guys are murdering everyone with S chassis.
I've already built so many S chassis that I'm kind of like, it would either be an S15 or an E46. I kind of want to build something different. Or it could be a GT86. I don't know.
Yeah, this is good though.
This is good.
This is better than a GT86. Who's the best driver in the world?
Chelsea.
Really?
Yeah.
Who's the best driver on this trip? I guess that ruins that.
Chelsea.
You think
Very,
they're
very
better
good
than
driver.
James Dean and stuff? Because James Dean beats him in comp.
Yeah.
Explain your rationale.
James is definitely, on paper, the best driver in the world, but I like Chelsea's driving style more, so that's personally my opinion.
Yeah.
I like the big angle, crazy wild man stuff that Chelsea does.
I'm just interested how everybody finds out about stuff.
Yeah.
Because I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I just kind of fanboy over a lot of people on this trip, really.
Cool.
And I kind of had to try and keep that tucked in so they didn't really see that, but it's cool.
Well, that's cool.
Yeah.
He's a fanboy of me. He was going to say me, but just doesn't want to embarrass me.
He didn't even mention you.
He didn't even mention me.
I've been
I'm
watching
obviously
all
not.
drift vlogs, too.
Yeah. I'm obviously not a good driver.
Some guy.
No, definitely an amazing
What's the
driver.
best car on the trip?
Mine.
Okay, that's fair. That's fair. You can absolutely vote for yourself.
Definitely not yours.
No, mine's not the best.
I might be the only person to say that, but I'm going to say it. I love my car.
Yeah. Do you think it's more comfortable than the others and performs better and doesn't break and got you to do the most track
Hell
time?
no. But it looks the best.
Okay, so you're all about style.
Oh, yeah.
Ooh, let's have a conversation about this real quick. Okay. There are 3 camps in drifting. There's style, which is you. There's performance over here. And then there's just seat time guys. I'm a seat time guy, obviously. David's a seat time guy. Mark, are you a style guy or seat time?
I'm a seat time. My
He's
car's
a
never
he's a
look
fixing
good.
the car kind of guy.
He's a fixing.
I'm
Okay.
like in the middle.
Wait. So we're definitely seat time guys. This is not a seat time car. This is his version of a seat time car of his extra stylish, extra like performance style car. Like seat time is completely left off the agenda in your other car. Do you agree?
Oh yeah.
Okay. And this thing is more style and performance than seat time. You say it's want to be seat time, but it's only because it's more than the other ones.
No, I was gonna say it's more style and performance.
Okay. Yeah.
Seat time, I still don't get that much. I'm trying.
Well, no. It's a thing. Like for me, this car gives me like anxiety looking at it. Like, oh man, you know what I mean? Like if I took the if I ran into somebody, if I run in, even if I'm just driving with you and I tap this car, I feel like it's gonna shatter. You know, like if I ran over your bumpers and stuff, I would feel so bad. I'm like, he has thousands of dollars of vinyl paint and body kit in this car, and like I do not want to ruin it. Whereas if I hit Mesker's like 350Z, I'm like, no big deal. So how do you like balance those things? Because as you say, style is more important. Or I know you want the other things, but you've definitely like if you have 100 credits of something and you put 50 of them in style and 50 of them in performance, seat time goes down to 0. You can lower them a little bit and seat time comes up, but then you're like, ooh, I don't like ugly cars, and you push style back up, and you know how it is. Money is a unit of measure of how much effort you have in this thing, and it goes back down. And I think what I've been hearing you say is over the past, however long, seat time goes down. It's fallen to very low. Not 0, of course, but
Yeah, very
as you pull-
expensive.
as you
seat
pull
time has
tires-
costed a lot more, whereas
Yeah.
for your situation, seat time is a lot cheaper, basically.
No, seat time's not cheaper because drifting always costs 100% of what you have available
Motorsports,
to blow. Yes,
for
that's
sure.
all performance. That's what
Yeah.
I'm saying. So if you have 100% of your ability to spend something has to give.
Yeah.
And I think seat time has. So how do you deal with that with yourself? Do you take the body kit off? You just don't look like you do any of those things, and you're always about style and performance.
I mean, I'm about style and performance. I try and do as much as I can. I mean, if I crack the bumper, I'm just gonna throw some fiberglass on the inside, and there's gonna be a pretty crack there. Like, ooh, that guy.
Yeah.
It's just like, that's just
If
what
you
it
would have
is.
gone off at Indy, were you watching the guys drift at Indy?
No, I couldn't really
Oh.
see anything. I was working.
So I saw him go off. Would the kit have lived one off?
No.
it was
You would've been
wild.
very sad.
You're listening to David. Not one off in this thing. The rocks were this big.
Oh no,
I
I've
mean,
been screwed.
Yeah, they were. I didn't mean like thousands of rocks every time you went off. I don't know how Fielding's kit lived, but his car is 3 inches higher than
He's
yours.
also KBD though.
Oh, that's what's going on. That makes sense. Because we were getting gnarly on those side skirts. I didn't know it was like how they were on the
Yeah,
car.
you were too. Yeah, you went off.
Yeah, I went off once real hard too, and my body kit was like LOL, but something makes noises in the back now. It's like. So how do we get you to level those off, or you never want to level them off?
I mean, I'm never really gonna level it off, man. Like,
We're in a whole row of style cars side. You see them all? Show them. All those cars are stylish as hell, and every one of those cars cannot go off track or have any tire wall incident or anything.
Yeah, or go down the entrance without scraping.
Yeah. How do we rectify that? How do we make you? You want to be one of the best drivers in the world? You want to drive with all the great guys? How do we get you to that point? How do we get your seat time up? What do we do?
we come on Drift Week
Okay.
and we have a smaller tune. I don't know.
Smaller tune.
I need to try out some of those Kendas.
I'm not telling you to be not stylish, by the way.
No, I know.
I'm just trying to get you to the point where, like Chelsea, he drives a car that doesn't have fiberglass on it, that has less horse. It makes 250 foot-pounds of torque or something. It's not a lot of car. Luke Fink, another guy that you like and everything, he's driving a literally stock G35 with wheels and coilovers and arms and stuff. Those guys go about a very different way of drifting than you do. And if you want to be as successful as them, it's a weird game because I have to play it as well. Obviously I want the most competitive car to run people down. I chose to bring an SC300. It's not sorted out. It's whatever. And you live with that.
I would like to get to that one day, but right now this is what I'm kind of working with, and it's kind of more so to progress myself into the competitive drifting world right now is what I'm kind of focused on. And as soon as I'm done with that, then I go more so towards that and just fun seat time cars.
But you are going the method of like Matt Powers and a lot of guys, Forrest Wang, they were style guys, and they did that very well. And people recognized them having style, and they picked up sponsors, I assume, and all this stuff, and they became very successful because they were icons to that drift community that was looking for the style thing. Are you actively trying to do that, or you're just like, this is for me?
No, I am, and I basically try and become dealers for things that I use, and honestly, like the Origin parts, they look really good, and I became a dealer for them, and so I kind of end up like selling enough to say, all right, if I break it, it's cool, because I've sold, this many this year, and I've got my kit for free, and oh well.
That's cool, man.
So
you are figuring out ways to make it work.
I figure out ways to make it work for sure. You got to fit foe.
Oh, just what do you find interesting? You know what I find interesting?
What's that?
I find balancing your driving with cost, with how much seat time you can get, with traveling, with adventure, with being with your friends, with figuring out new ways to experience drifting and push it forward so that we're not doing the same thing over and over again, especially because someone as myself, Sai's been around it. I've been driving at Gulf Greyhound Park since 2004. Same thing with Mineral Wells. It's now closed, but I've been driving there since 2004. So some of these venues I've been driving for 16 years, and we're doing a lot of repetitive things. Even in the end, David and I have been going to Japan a lot, and that's even getting repetitive. Over the course of, I went twice, and you maybe went twice in a year, 2 times. So that makes us probably at 7 trips, and each trip is typically between 7 and 20 days, which makes us over 100 days of driving at that facility, which is bonkers.
Crazy.
God, we have an addiction. Yeah. But I was going to say that it becomes repetitive even then. And I would not go if it was not for David driving with me and all these other people. And we do not go when the other people aren't there. Not that he likes me or anything, but we have a good group. When I go, he goes, and our friends go because we get to a critical mass of people. And it's a great experience. So I'm always looking for that next thing. I went to Poland this year. I went to Australia before. All over the place. I'm looking for new experiences and to figure stuff out. Because for the first 10 years of my drifting, or 12, I don't know what it is, but for the first decade, I didn't even know Ebisu existed outside of option videos, and that it was a place I could go. And now it's, a very cool place for me. I didn't realize that drifting could be so good in Texas once we got all the drivers up to a certain level. Now the drivers are amazing. I can't wait to get to an event, no matter what level it is, whether it be a parking lot or a road course. It's so much fun to drive with everybody. And all your friends. So how do you push that forward? You say Drift Week, yes, but there's got to be something past this. Because this is it's over after this. I might not ever do another one.
Yeah.
What are you going to do? Because if you continue the FD route, more resources and more time will get allocated to that, and you will be doing less of anything else.
Yeah.
So you either need to be very successful at that and be very streamlined to do it, and that works great, or if it's not working, you need to have another outlet, or else it hurts and it's painful and you quit,
Yeah. I think it's about what you enjoy, basically, as an individual. And another thing that's kind of a benefit to me, I guess, is that I'm still very new to this. 2013 is 6 years, but...
7 years.
7 years. Oh, yeah, 2020. I'm getting old. But, yeah, it's still all, new experiences. Every time you go out on the track with your friends and you get to throw down some sick tandems, it's a new experience. Definitely to the point where single runs are definitely not fun. Fun. They're fun a little bit, but not as fun as going out there and ripping some tandems with your friends. I don't know. I have a lot of fun in the competitive side of drifting, which coming now recently is you can almost be more successful in the Pro-Am world of competitive drifting, whereas the payouts and stuff like that, financially, because the payouts in Pro-Am drifting now are even higher than what they are in Pro 2. And most grassroots series as well.
Do you want to explain that real quickly for a second? Because the people might not be aware.
Well, you have your shootouts at, there's $5,000 to the winner. There's another grassroots series coming up right now. They're giving away 20 grand or something, you can, and then in Pro 2, you go out there, you win the event, you're not even covering the tires you spent for the day. You know what I mean? Not to mention, Airbnbs, hotel, travel, fuel, what you break, all these other things. You can have as much fun doing other things too. It's just I kind of have the more fun in doing the competitive side of drifting and trying to drive with some of the best drivers in the world.
Thank you. Whee! So that's a difficult thing because it's always going to be, until you're at the very high levels, drifting is about racing, and racing is about spending your money and being a hobby. And we get to be at the extreme level of hobbies. Once you get to the grassroots organizations putting out huge payouts and following the circle track models and things like that, people just spend more to win it, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
And it becomes a never-ending cycle. If you're going to go out and win $5,000, you're going to spend $10,000 to do it.
For sure.
And we have plenty of drivers, even in Lone Star Drift, that probably spend, what do you think some of the guys like Nick Novak spent? or we don't even have to mention him.
I don't even.
$5,000 to $8,000 per event.
Easy, yeah.
Bossy,
Yeah.
Yeah, that's yours, bossy.
Money to get his car built as well.
What?
And a bunch of money for the car build
Right.
as well, and a whole bunch of stuff. Where's mine? Thank you.
Thank you.
It's the one
So you get to the point where the people are willing to spend more than the prize money,
Yeah.
which means the prize money is not necessarily even a draw, because if the prize money ratchets up, the money people will spend to win it ratchets up. So it's not bad. Like, prize money is great. I do prize money and stuff, and I do prizes and stuff. It's just one of those things that it's more of an excitement factor and gets people excited. I don't know. I'm just chatting. I'm not shooting down the idea.
I'm just saying it like offset. I mean, we all know
I'm being
that
controversial.
drifting, motorsports in general is not going to be something that you're ever going to necessarily make money at, but it just makes things more exciting. It offsets costs. Like, if there's a chance to go win some money at this event and there's a chance to go drive at this event that's not necessarily something you're going to win at, sometimes I'll go to this and sometimes I'll go to that. I don't know. It's just the weekend. Whatever I feel like doing. I don't know. It's just like a place. I don't do much outside of drifting, so I don't really think too much of us do that much outside of drifting because it costs so much.
It's so much in time and effort and money.
We fell in love with it, so it's what we're gonna do.
Our poor girlfriends,
Our
or
poor
wives,
girlfriends. Unfortunate for me that my girlfriend drifts as well, so she understands.
Oh man.
But it's also, she wants to go do events, so that's, time consuming, expensive. I gotta fix her car.
Do you have a simulator?
Yeah, I actually learned how to drive on a simulator.
Back in 2013?
Even before then, actually, because there was a mall local to my house that had a 5 simulators set up, and you would go in there, do a track challenge every month, set the fastest lap time, come back in. It would be at the end of the month. It'd be a challenge. So I learned how to do that, and originally that was what made me want to build a time attack car. And then that guy closed down. I go to that Formula D event, and I see drifting. I later, a couple months after that, meet a guy who ends up being my teammate in Garage Moon Power, who also had the exact same simulator and program that I used to do at that mall at the time, but it was for drifting.
And was that Live for Speed or something?
That was R Factor.
R Factor.
JDM Factor. And so basically when that happened, I found my JDM, I bought my own computer, got my own setup. I went to like maybe 2 or 3 events beforehand. Really couldn't even, before I started doing JDM Factor, I couldn't really link the track even that much at some events. I remember going to my first event, not able to link the track, and I was like sick. I threw up on the way home. I was like, this is something I really want to do. Why do I suck? And then my car broke. 6 months I played on this simulator for every day, probably 2 to 3 hours a day if I could, every day. There was a Nopi competition that came up. Borrowed a friend's car, went out there, had never driven the car, qualified first, won the event, and I was hooked from there. So
that's a big learning difference between not being able to drive and making yourself sick to
going out there.
People.
And I remember doing the first lap and just coming in screaming like a girl, like, this is just like R Factor.
You know what sucks too? Is you go out and win an event or qualify first or do something, you're just like, I'm gonna spend all the money I have on this. Yep. I'm gonna this is my thing, and you go out and then you're like, oh wow, this is expensive.
This is very expensive. But I mean, if I'm not spending the money on this, I'm gonna spend it on something else.
Yeah, no, I know. It's
Can't
probably
take
crack
it with
or
you.
something.
Probably crack. Who knows? We just came through New Mexico. Probably would have been meth. I don't know.
Yeah, there's probably a lot of it here.